देख रहे हैं द पॉलिसी टाइम्स। पिछले कई सालों से इंडिया दुनिया के नजर में ना कि एक सबसे बड़ा कंज्यूमर मार्केट है। रिसेंटली एप्पल यहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ा फॉक्सकॉन बहुत बड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट के बाद टेस्ला और दुनिया के तमाम टॉप ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपनी इंडिया पे इन्वेस्ट करके मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बनाने के बाद कंज्यूमर मार्केट से इंडिया आज दुनिया के नजर में चाइना के बाद एक ग्लोबल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब भी बन रहा है। और क्योंकि ग्लोबल प्लेटफॉर्म में चाहे वो G20 हो, ब्रिक्स हो, G7 हो या यूनाइटेड नेशन के तमाम प्लेटफॉर्म में, क्योंकि इंडिया एक लीडरशिप रोल में है, तो इंडिया बहुत फास्ट पेस में जो ग्लोबल पॉलिसीज हैं उसको अडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं। और उन तमाम पॉलिसियों में से नेट जीरो मिशन और सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट का रोड मैप अडॉप्ट करने का मिशन और किस तरह से ओवरऑल एक इन्वायरमेंटल रेगुलेशन वाइज सेंसिटिव ग्लोबली एक इकोनॉमी हम बन सकते हैं, उसके तौर पे इंडिया पिछले कुछ सालों से बहुत फास्ट पेस में इन्वायरमेंटल मॉडर्न रेगुलेशंस को अडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं। अब ये जो रेगुलेशन इंडिया अडॉप्ट कर रही है वो हाउ फार दोज रेगुलेशंस आर बीइंग एक्चुअली उसकी कम्युनिकेशन हम जो उसके रियल स्टेक होल्डर हैं वहां तक कितने लेके जा पा रहे हैं, इंडिया के ये इन्वायरमेंटल लॉ के जो स्टेक होल्डर हैं वो किस तरह से इस लॉ को रीड कर रहे हैं, इंटरप्रीट कर रहे हैं, एडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं, ताकि सरकार की जो मिशन, इंडिया का जो विजन है इन तमाम ग्लोबली स्टैंडर्ड इन्वायरमेंटल रेगुलेशंस हैं, उसको जो एंड रिजल्ट है हम उसको अचीव कर पाए। और फिर हम क्या एडेक्वेट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर उसके हिसाब से डेवलप कर पाए। ये तमाम बहुत सारे मुद्दे हैं। विजन बनाना, उस विजन को एक दिशा देना, जो उस विजन को इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे, जो स्टेक होल्डर हैं वो स्टेक होल्डर कितने इक्विप्ड हैं, एम्पावर्ड हैं, और फिर कैसे हम उसको अचीव करेंगे। ये तमाम चीजों पे बात करने के लिए मेरे साथ मिस्टर ऋषिराज चौधरी हैं, जो जनरल मैनेजर हैं क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट टीम के LG इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इंडिया के। सर वेलकम टू द शो, टू द पॉडकास्ट।
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Yeah.
पहला सवाल मैं आपको ये करना चाह रहा हूँ सर, सिंस लास्ट कपल ऑफ इयर्स इंडिया ने बहुत सारे ग्लोबली स्टैंडर्ड रेगुलेशन को अडॉप्ट किया है। व्हाट इज योर ऑब्जर्वेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ इंडिया अडॉप्टिंग ग्लोबल एनवायरमेंटल रेगुलेशंस?
Right. Akram, first of all, thank you so much for having me here in Policy Times. And I must say that you're doing a fabulous job in bringing out the policy and voice of opinions of the industries from different stakeholders. Coming back to your question, Akram, as you see, if I talk about India BIS rules, BIS rules was formed way back in 2016, right? And ever since that, we had the rules and standards in place, but somehow because of some reason or the other, they were not being implemented. But if we look at the last 7 to 8 years, there is a tremendous, there is a tremendous scope, and there is also a tremendous speed up in the implementation of the rules. And this shows a great progress itself. And as far as current status of our country is concerned, we are no less than any developed country in terms of including most of the risks related to compliance, especially environmental compliance, within the scope of the standards. So this is how we stand today compared to the global standards. There is a lot to be done, but yes, this is how probably the starting need to be done. But as we move ahead, there are challenges, and yes, I think we are capable enough to meet these challenges.
सर एक पहला सवाल, सबसे पहले जब हम नए पॉलिसी लाने की बात करते हैं तो एक सवाल आता है स्टेक होल्डर रेडीनेस। यानी हम अच्छे पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट किया, पॉलिसी हमेशा, चाहे आजादी के टाइम पे हमने एक सोशलिस्ट डेमोक्रेटिक सेक्युलर रिपब्लिक की बात करें, या 1990s में हम प्राइवेटाइजेशन, ग्लोबलाइजेशन, लिबरलाइजेशन की बात करें, या ये 21st सेंचुरी में जो आज की हम बात कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे नेट जीरो या ESG स्ट्रेटेजी जैसे गोल को अडॉप्ट करें। गोल अडॉप्ट करने में हम कभी भी पीछे नहीं थे, पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट करने में हम हमेशा वन ऑफ द बेस्ट क्लास पॉलिसी बनाते थे। लेकिन हमेशा जो इंडस्ट्री एंड जो अदर स्टेक होल्डर का एक रिजर्वेशन, ऑब्जर्वेशन और कंसर्न रहती हैं, हाउ फार इंडस्ट्री पॉलिसी बनाने के टाइम पे इंडस्ट्री इज एंगेज्ड in making the policy, or stakeholders are engaged, and what is the level of stakeholder readiness? So according to you, what should be the ideal way, और जो एडवांस कंट्री भी इस तरह से मॉडल और अपडेटेड और अपग्रेडेड और फ्यूचरिस्टिक पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट करते हैं, चाहे वो मिडिल ईस्ट हो, चाहे यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हो, चाहे आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात करें तो वो भी तो बहुत ही एडवांस और मॉडर्न लेवल की पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट कर रहे हैं। सो हमारे सरकार जब इस तरह से पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट करते हैं, क्या आइडियल और आइडियल अप्रोच होनी चाहिए ताकि एवरीबॉडी फील्स एंगेज्ड, empowered, and with a proper direction?
Right. It's a very good question, Akram. Actually, this is one of the point which I feel we have scope for improvement. The reason being, अभी जैसे हमने standards update किया, जो अब मतलब adopt किया globally. So once we adopt those standards, first of all, the environmental check, the survey, that is very mandatory. That's step one. So if we have to adopt a standard, suppose if we are not having our standard, we are adopting a global standard, feasibility part of it needs to be checked. The environmental check, how we are going to do that? We are going to do that by definitely discussing this with all the cross-functional stakeholders, right? And during the discussion of cross-functional stakeholders only, we will get to know the data analysis part, the historical data which is there, whether to defend that regulation or not, and how we are what is the amount of effort that might be needed to go up to that level and comply it. So first step is obviously involving all the stakeholders, as you rightly said. And globally, if I might take an example, from my experience of working in South Korea for almost 6 years with my current company, what I could see is that there are some international standard forming committees. So even global bodies like IEC and ISO, before they release a standard, right? They discuss the standard, consult the standards among different subcommittees. They have some technical committees. So that idea has been adopted here also in India also, but in limited areas. Like if we talk about the energy regulation, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Government of India, they have adapted that standard, and that is why BE Energy program is doing very well. If we look at all the appliances like refrigerator, air conditioner, right, washing machine recently being included, and microwave oven still in kind of in the process. So all these appliances standards regularly on a very periodic manner, BE is involving the stakeholders. They're trying to see what changes can be adopted, looking at the existing data, looking at the capacity. So this is the right way. So that is first thing, joining, and then second is also assessing the infrastructure. That is very important, right? The assessment of the infrastructure. Once we have the standard in place, when we go about complying to it, how we are going to validate it? What are the stakeholders? How they will cater to it? So, like these is a regular process. Abroad also, it takes minimum 1.5 to 2 years. If I talk about average, on an average, our standards related to home appliance industries, they take minimum 1.5 to 2 years to come into implementation or come into enforcement. So there is always a certain amount of time which is given to all the stakeholders to comply to it, considering all these factors only.
You
So that
mentioned,
is how it should be. Yeah, right. That is how it should be. And
you
that is
mentioned, yeah.
yeah, and that is the regular way of actually kind of realization of a standard. Standard is okay, that is the rules, but to realize that rules and put it into place, that is how it should be done.
That
That is what I
transitional
could say.
phase has to be properly addressed. That is,
Absolutely,
sir,
absolutely.
you mentioned about the infrastructure readiness. Initially
Mhm.
was the stakeholder readiness. पहले इंसान माने जो stakeholder involved है. The second is infrastructure readiness. To actually implement it, we need the stakeholder to be ready, empowered. The second thing, we need the infrastructure. So infrastructure अगर बात
Right.
करें, छोटा सा एग्जांपल के तौर पे हम ईपीआर की बात कर रहे हैं। अक्सर जब मैं इंडस्ट्री लीडर से बात करता हूँ, एक हमेशा कंजर्वेशन और रिजर्वेशन और कंसर्न रेज आती है इंडस्ट्री की तरफ से कि देखो, ईपीआर इज अ वंडरफुल पॉलिसी टू बिल्ड सर्कुलरिटी और टू अचीव सर्कुलरिटी। नाउ इंडिया के वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट यानी रिसाइकलिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की अगर बात करें, चाहे वो प्लास्टिक हो, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेस्ट हो, बैटरी हो, टायर हो, इनमें एक तो स्टैंडर्ड का बहुत बड़ा वेरिएशन है। दूसरा, प्रॉपर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर माने इन्वेस्टमेंट जितनी होनी है कितना है, प्रॉपर टेक्नोलॉजी एंड इनोवेशन कितना आया है, उसमें भी बहुत सारे कंसर्न्स, एंड देयर इज नो एज सच बेंचमार्क अक्रॉस द कंट्री, एंड देयर इज नो एक्चुअल कैलकुलेशन कि कितने कलेक्शन हो रहा है और कितने रिसाइकलिंग हो रहा है, कितना फिर रिसाइकलिंग प्रोडक्ट डेवलप हो रहा है और कितने इंटीग्रेट हो रहे हैं सर्कुलरिटी मोड पे। इसका प्रॉपर जो डेटा एनालिटिक्स से आप बात कर रहे थे, सर व्हाट वुड बी योर सजेशंस and ideas and suggestions and recommendations in terms of infrastructure readiness की तरफ इंडिया कितना अभी इक्विप्ड है, और जितने भी चाहे पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क डेवलपमेंट के हो, कैसा होना चाहिए आइडियली?
Actually, when we started with the EPR program, like EPR program now, we almost have in most of the environmental compliance, be it plastic waste, be it electronic waste, or be it the battery waste programs, right? Initially, yes, I agree with what you were saying that the data visibility part was not there, the analysis part was not. But slowly over the last couple of years, they have built one portal. So Central Pollution Control Board has come up with a portal where they have tried to integrate all the stakeholders, bringing in all those data, how much the product they are selling, the total quantity of products what each stakeholder is selling in the market, how much waste is being collected, how much of that waste is being recycled. So targets have been given to all the stakeholders. Accordingly, recycling has been done. Accordingly, all these things has been done, but what is missing out here is the validation part, right? So the data presence is being now felt. Data probably availability does. Although we need to do more work on that, as you said, more work on that. Why? Because I think in this age of artificial intelligence, in sustainability also, AI can be used in a very big way. How? Because if we have sufficient data, the past data from like 4 or 5 years, or maybe even more than that, the predictive analysis can be done, right? And especially I'm talking about areas where continuously we have to revise a lot of things like the target revision. If I'm talking about the credit revision, the credit which, because since we are having the rules in place, government has also made a revenue model, right? So in the revenue model, finally the credit which is generated, so that credit revision also need to be based on data only, like how in all over India, what is the actual status of basically recycling and how the cost is being impacted across every layer, right? So this prediction also, rather than just discussing with one stakeholder and confining to it, that is also an area of improvement where we can talk about. Now, coming back to the infra part, the validation part, that I would say recyclers infra, right? Recently, yes, we have seen one positive say taken by the Central Pollution Control Board. They have come up with a draft of related to the audit of the recyclers. So this also, I think, this draft need to be properly revised, discussed with stakeholders, and maybe we can also benchmark some of the companies or the way it is happening abroad, and then finally make the SOP, which is related to recycling auditing, and then we can implement the auditing part. Another area which is not yet touched is the hazardous substances. So in the e-waste rules, they have mentioned about hazardous substances. They have mentioned that from 1st of April 2025, it is going to be mandatory. But as I know from Mr. Anand, who was basically the previous president of CPCB, who has now retired, when he came to LG and when I met him, so I got to know from him that there is one basically authorized lab, government authorized lab in the entire pan India, which is in Hyderabad. So
Right.
now the thing is that we need to increase that. Maybe like just like in energy, just like in BIS, the government is taking a step of increasing or approving a lot of private labs which are already working in that same direction. In
Mhm.
India also, we have a lot of labs which are basically MNCs, which have their global presence. If I talk about Intertech, these are labs which are having global presence. So if they are allowed to come under the approval category, right? So they can have a huge value addition. What I feel is that in environment also, like for hazardous substances also, that validate to strengthen that validation part, right? So these kind of a chain of labs need to be established, authorized by CPCB, and then the validation bench will be authorized. Similarly, now what is happening is, since there are no labs, right, there is only one approved lab. Most of the small time supplier, I would say small scale industry supplier, because of the cost factor, they are not able to do the testing as per the compliance requirement for hazardous substance. But once it comes under government approval, I'm sure there would be subsidized rates for even the small players to go for hazardous substances approval part, because it's a challenge for them now. There are so many parts, there are so many child parts that we are, each and every child part, if we need to comply to this hazardous substance, it's a huge cost. So I think from that angle also, the infra development and approval by the government is needed if we want to make a holistic progress.
Excellent, sir. यहाँ पे I just got one direction. When this sort of things we discuss often with our government leaders, एक पॉइंट आता है उनके पास और चार पांच और solutions उनके पास होता है.
जी
सडनली
जी
मैं कंफ्यूज हो जाता हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट के पास इतना सारा सोल्यूशन है लेकिन इंडस्ट्री के पास बहुत सारे क्वेरीज और कंसर्न्स हैं. सो
जी
यू थिंक देयर इज an information gap also, and that gap has to be mitigated, and that happens through a lot of events, conference और ये सब में वहां पे गवर्नमेंट के
right.
रिप्रेजेंटेशन प्रेजेंस ऑन अवेयरनेस बढ़ाना एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर रहता है. दिस इज वन ऑब्जर्वेशन.
Absolute,
In addition to this,
absolute.
any other suggestion you would like to present before our audience in terms of achieving circularity and net zero? क्योंकि हमने net zero goal टारगेट लिया है, by 2070 हम अचीव करेंगे, और सर्कुलरिटी भी हम अचीव करना चाह रहे हैं. सरकार ने क्लियर ब्लूप्रिंट दिया है. इंडस्ट्री कितना रेडी है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कितना रेडी है, और ओवरऑल सबको हमें ये अचीव करना है. इट इज नॉट फॉर आवर सेक, इट इज फॉर द सेक ऑफ आवर फ्यूचर जनरेशन. सो क्या क्या
Right.
आपके हिसाब से सजेशन रहेगा?
I think the first and the foremost thing which comes to my mind is the awareness of the people of the country. See, what is being done so far in all the environment compliance rules is that they have made stakeholders in most of the rules, and they have given the responsibility to the manufacturers or to the producers or maybe to the brand owners to spread the information and awareness among the consumers. Government is doing its bit for sure, but I think there is a lot more which is needed, because honestly, if I give one example, we in e-waste we talk about take back mechanism. Take back mechanisms necessarily means if the refrigerator which you are using in your home, if it has reached the end of life, maybe after 14, now government has also made the document of end of life. It's like standards we have made for every product when it is declared as end of life. And after end of life, it means it starts basically degrading or decaying, which is not good for the environment. So it should be sent for recycling. So now what happens, because of lack of awareness, people are either not sending it, or even if they're sending it, they are sending it to the regular kabadiwalas who do not know how to recycle it, right? So that awareness program, what hazards it might cause if we are not sending it for recycling through a proper channel. So these kind of information, this is just one example. There are lots of examples, net zero also another. So I think there is a lot which is still to be done in terms of spreading awareness, especially in the remote areas of the country, right? In a very basic and simple way. Recently, we had a meeting with Bureau of Energy Efficiency Ministry, and we are very happy to know that they are, making some program for all our retailers. So basically, what happened is that manufacturers like us, we are having very stringent educational programs among us, among our employees, right? So our service department is, as I can say, it is LG's, and LG service persons are having continuous training on how to maintain the energy label, the user information which is put in the product, how to maintain it so that products can read it and get some information. But at the dealer side, the awareness is not there. So sometimes you will find some of the labels being torn off. So user information, that information which is needed for the user, it gets kind of hidden, or it gets, it is actually missed. So these kind of small things related to awareness up in the dealer level, Bureau of Energy Efficiency is about to start. So when I heard about it, we were very happy. And so this is just an example. which the way BE is doing, I would also feel that for environment compliance, there should be a lot of activities related to public awareness which should be done. Then only the target achieving, then only whatever compliance we are talking about will actually add true value. I think because eventually it is, as you have said, for Mother Nature, right? So that's only the when true reflection will come. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. So it's a big country, hence all multiple stakeholders have to be rightly connected, rightly
Right.
engaged, rightly educated and empowered. Then only we will achieve collective, because this is a collective goal. No single agency can achieve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Involvement of everything from education institution to families to state government officials to central government officials and also to
Right.
international stakeholders, because we can learn a lot. We don't need to recreate everything. We can learn quickly from other countries who have done good, great models. We can learn from Europe, we can learn from China, we can
Absolutely.
United States. So let's learn from the global players, from them quickly in the digital age, in the AI age, and let's also engage every possible stakeholder in everything. That's what Mr. Rishiraj Choudhury, General
Yeah.
Manager, Quality Department at LG Electronics India, was talking about. आप देख रहे थे पॉलिसी टाइम्स, देखते रहिए. हम इसी तरह अलग अलग सब्जेक्ट पे अलग अलग एक्सपर्ट के साथ बात करेंगे, और हमारा गोल है इस देश को पॉलिसी एडवोकेसी के तहत एक बेहतरीन डेवलप्ड देश बनाना. सिर्फ डेवलप मतलब बहुत ज्यादा पैसा होने से डेवलप नहीं होता. डेवलप होने का सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. एक आदमी के पास कितना पैसा है वो इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, एक आदमी कितने अच्छे स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग जीते हैं, कैसे लाइफ कैसा है, और कैसे पीस, यानी पीस, हैप्पीनेस, प्रोस्पेरिटी, ये सारा किस तरह से कोएग्जिस्ट करके एक प्रॉपर इन्वायरमेंटल नेचर में जीते हैं. तो ये सारे तमाम एस्पेक्ट को बैलेंस लाना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो देखते रहिए द पॉलिसी टाइम्स.